Queen Anne, Seattle. The first time I really saw Aidan McCoy was the day my favorite ceramic planter, the one from the farmer's market in Sedona, shattered on my front porch. I'd overwatered the lavender. Again, the terracotta, bloated and heavy, simply split open, spilling dark soil and tangled roots across the welcome mat Liam had chosen for its correct minimalist aesthetic. I was on my knees, trying to scoop the mess with my hands, feeling the hot prickle of stupid, frustrated tears behind my eyes. Over a plant, over everything. Need a hand? The voice was low, calm, devoid of pity. I looked up, shielding my eyes from the weak Seattle sun. Aidan stood on the sidewalk, a grocery bag in one hand. He wore his usual faded olive green jacket, and his posture was that same straight-backed, observant stillness I'd come to recognize. My neighbor from 2 houses down, the quiet one who lived alone with a German shepherd. I think it's beyond help, I said, attempting a laugh. It came out watery. The plant's salvageable, he said, setting his bag down. He didn't ask, just joined me on the porch. His hands, broad and scarred, were surprisingly gentle as he untangled the lavender. It's the pot that's had it. You've got a container with no drainage. Roots rot. Pot explodes. Simple physics. I'm not very good with living things. I mumbled, more to myself than to him. He glanced at me, a quick, assessing look. Seems like you're keeping yourself alive okay. He stood, the rescued plant in his hands. I've got a spare pot, unglazed. Breathes. I'll bring it over. Oh, you don't have to. It's taking up space in my garage. He was already walking away. 5 minutes. That was Aidan. Help offered, not as a grand gesture, but as a simple statement of fact. A problem existed. He would solve it. No fuss. I took the clean, unadorned pot he brought over, our fingers brushing. His were rough, calloused. Thank you, Aidan. Really? Can I bake you something? As thanks, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touched his mouth. Heard your lemon bars are legendary. Mrs. Gable talks too much, I said, but I smiled back. It was the first real smile I'd felt on my face in weeks. She does, but about good things. He gave a short nod. Enjoy the rest of your day. Michelle. I watched him walk back to his modest, neatly kept craftsman. Liam's Tesla glided into the driveway next door 20 minutes later. I was inside, washing the soil from my hands. Smells like a garden center in here, Liam said, shrugging off his Brunello Cucinelli jacket. He kissed my cheek, his attention already on his phone. I had a pot disaster. Aidan from down the street helped me repot the lavender. Liam's thumb paused over his screen. Aidan? The guy who still dresses like he's in the army? What was he doing here? Helping. He was walking by. Liam made a dismissive sound in the back of his throat. That weirdo in the fatigues. Honey, I pay people to do those things. Stop fraternizing with the help. It sends the wrong message. He's not the help. Liam, he's our neighbor. And he was kind. Kindness is for people who can't write checks. Liam said, finally looking at me. His eyes, a cool blue, scanned my face. You look tired. Another headache? Another headache. Code 4. You're not being your best. Most presentable self. Code 4. The baby-making stress is showing. Just a long day, I said, turning to the fridge. Salmon for dinner? With the lemon or butter you like? Perfect, he said, his focus back on his phone. Just keep it light. I've got an investor call with Singapore at 7. The digital thermometer on my nightstand read 98.8. I marked the tiny, corresponding dot on the chart, connecting it to yesterday's dot with a thin blue line. The line was frustratingly, monotonously flat. No ovulation spike. Again, I'd been charting my basal body temperature for 26 months, taking prenatal vitamins for 36. I knew the precise, clinical smell of the doctor's office, the feel of the cold ultrasound wand, the sympathetic, pitying tone of Dr. Evans. Michelle, at 35, with your numbers, we're looking at diminished ovarian reserve. The chances of spontaneous conception are under 20% now. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think we need to have a realistic conversation about IVF, or possibly donor eggs. I hadn't told Liam the under 20% part. I'd framed it as we need to try stronger interventions. He'd written the check for the first IVF round without blinking. It failed. The second round yielded 2 embryos. The transfer failed. The silence in the house after that second negative test was a physical thing. Liam didn't yell. He just shut down. He worked later. He traveled more. He stopped asking about the charts. I tried to fill the silence. I baked for the neighbors. I volunteered at the library. I got my real estate license online. Then a project management certification. Little boxes to tick. Proofs that I was still a functional, productive person, not just a failing biological vessel. I saw Aiden often. I'd take him lemon bars, and in return, he'd fix the sticking drawer in my kitchen. I'd collect his packages when he was out of town for work, and he'd silently shovel my driveway when it snowed. Hours before the service Liam hired would arrive. We didn't talk much, but his presence was a constant. Quiet anchor in the swirling uncertainty of my life. He once found me crying over a burned batch of cookies to stupid. Trivial trigger for an ocean of grief, and simply made a pot of strong coffee and sat with me at the kitchen island until I stopped. He's a good man, I said to Liam once. After Aiden had repaired a section of our fence the windstorm had damaged. Liam was reviewing a contract. Who? Aiden. He fixed the fence. Wouldn't take any money. Probably desperate for it. Liam said, not looking up. Guy lives alone in a house that hasn't been updated since the 90s. Drives a 10-year-old truck. He's a charity case. Michelle, don't encourage him. I didn't argue. Arguing with Liam was like shouting into a gale. It just left you breathless and defeated. Our 3rd wedding anniversary arrived on a cold, drizzly Tuesday. I'd made reservations at the Pink Door, the place where we'd celebrated our engagement. I wore the emerald green dress Liam liked. Took extra time with my hair. I lit candles. Liam was late. He texted at 7:15, running behind. Start without me. I sipped a glass of Sancerre. The taste sour on my tongue. He arrived at 8:30. His energy sharp, electric. He'd had a good day. That was usually a good thing. Sorry, darling, he said, kissing me. He smelled of crisp winter air and expensive scotch. Closed the Veritas deal. Huge margin. That's wonderful. Liam, I said, meaning it. His wins were our wins. Weren't they? We ate. He talked about the deal, about the new VP he was poaching from Amazon, about the potential for a Series C funding round. I nodded. Asked the right questions. The ghost of the unmentioned anniversary sat between us, a 3rd guest at the table. Over dessert at a tiramisu I picked at, he finally stilled. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks. The appraisal in his eyes was cold, clinical. It was the look he gave a business proposal he was about to reject. Michelle, we need to talk. My stomach dropped. All right, this isn't working. He said it calmly, as if commenting on the wine. The tiramisu? This. Us. The project. He couldn't even say the word. Baby. Family. Liam. We knew it would be hard. Dr. Evans said we could try a different protocol. Maybe a surrogate. The words tumbled out. Desperate. Rehearsed in my head 100 times. He held up a hand. I've run the numbers. Financially. Emotionally. Temporally. The ROI is no longer there. The doctor said your chances are under 20% now, right? He finally said it, the number hanging in the air like a verdict. I need an heir. Michelle, a clear successor. It's a biological and strategic imperative. This endless hoping. These procedures, it's degrading. For both of us, I felt the room tilt. Degrading? The word was a whisper. Yes, chasing a statistical improbability. I built a company from the ground up by recognizing when to cut losses and pivot. This is a loss we need to cut. I stared at him, at the handsome, familiar face that had become a stranger's. I'm a loss? The situationese. He clarified, as if it made a difference. I've had my lawyer draw up papers. It's clean. You'll get a settlement. The prenup is generous for the circumstances. The prenup, the one I'd signed, giddy in love, trusting the man who promised to build a life with me. My lawyer had argued for a clause. After 3 years, in the event of a no-fault divorce, I'd get a percentage of the marital assets, not just a flat sum. Liam had agreed, calling it a bonus for a successful partnership. The prenup says, after 3 years, I get 20% of the shared asset growth. I said, my voice gaining a sliver of steel. That's the agreement. Liam. He smiled then, a thin, chilling smile. You really think that flimsy paper matters? Try me. I'll bury you in legal fees until you're living in a studio in Renton and crawling back to Arizona to live with your mother inside of a year. I'll tie it up in courts until you're 50. Is that what you want? The threat was delivered in the same tone he'd used to discuss the salmon. Calm, certain, factual. This was the man who'd bankrupted a competitor on principle, who'd once bragged about making a litigious former employee's life so hellish they'd moved to another state. He could do it. He would do it. You'd do that to me? The question was pathetic. I already knew the answer. I'm protecting my interests, as I always have. He pushed a manila envelope across the table. The papers, the settlement offer is in there. It's fair. Take it. Michelle, walk away with some dignity. Don't make this ugly. Ugly? A hysterical laugh bubbled in my throat. You're throwing me out because my ovaries are underperforming. And you're telling Mennett to make it ugly? Keep your voice down. He hissed, glancing at nearby tables. This is a business transaction. Nothing more. Sign the papers. Be out by the end of the month. The end of the month? That's 2 weeks. You should have seen it coming, he said, signaling for the check. The townhouse is in my name. The accounts are mine. Take the offer. It's more than you contributed. The drive home was silent. The rain streaked the windows like tears. Inside our gleaming, minimalist townhouse, I felt like a ghost. I went to the guest room, the one we'd painted a soft yellow, hoping. I didn't sleep. The next 2 weeks were a blur of quiet devastation. I moved like an automaton. I packed my clothes, my books, the few pieces of art that were mine from before. I left the furniture, the dishes, the shared life. It had never really been shared. Had it? Liam made himself scarce. He stayed at a hotel, or perhaps with the new, more fertile model he'd undoubtedly already lined up. The cruelty was so colossal it almost felt impersonal, like being struck by a natural disaster. The morning of my move, a gray U-Haul truck sat in the driveway like a hearse. I was carrying a box of shoes, my arms trembling, when a voice spoke behind me. Need a hand? Aiden. He was just there, in his jeans, a simple gray Henley, hands in his pockets. This time, I didn't pretend. The tears I'd been choking back broke free. I nodded, unable to speak. He didn't ask questions. He just started loading boxes. He worked with a silent, efficient strength, handling my things with more care than Liam ever had. He'd brought moving blankets and ratchet straps. He knew how to pack a truck. Where to? He asked when the townhouse was hollowed of me. An apartment in Ballard. Temporary. It's all I can afford right now. He nodded. Lead the way. I'll follow you. He did, in his old Ford truck. He followed my rented box of misery across town. He helped me unload in the rain, carrying boxes up 3 flights of stairs to a cramped, beige apartment that smelled of stale air and disappointment. When the last box was inside, I stood in the empty, echoing space, shivering. Aiden, I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. He looked at me, his gaze steady, seeing everything but the grief, the fear, the humiliation. You're going to be all right. Michelle, I don't feel all right. That's because you're in the middle of it. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a simple, unglazed clay pot, and it was a sprig of lavender, freshly planted. This one's got drainage. He set it on the barren kitchen counter, a tiny spot of life in the beige void. He left then, with just a final nod. I sank to the floor, my back against the wall, and sobbed until my ribs ached. Later, when the storm had passed to a dull, numb throb, I logged into my banking app. The settlement had been deposited, a lump sum that felt vast and pathetic at the same time. More money than my teacher mother had seen in her lifetime, but a fraction of what I'd helped Liam build. A pittance compared to the future he'd promised. My name was off the accounts. The credit cards were canceled. My phone buzzed. My mom. Hi, sweetie. Just thinking about you. How's the weather up there? I took a shuddering breath, plastering a smile onto my face that she couldn't see but would hear in my voice. I was good at that now. Hey, Mom, it's drizzly. You know Seattle. How's the book club? As I chatted, telling her everything was fine. Just fine. I stared at the little lavender plant on the counter. Drainage. Oh, the roots wouldn't rot, so the pot wouldn't explode. Maybe Aiden was right. Maybe I wasn't the problem. Maybe I'd just been in the wrong container. With no way for the rot to escape, the pot had finally shattered. Now, I was here, on a cold floor, with $3.200 to my name that wasn't already earmarked for rent and despair, and a single, fragile plant that someone had thought to give proper drainage. It wasn't a start, it was an ending. But as I sat there in the silence of my new, lonely life, a tiny, treacherous thought whispered, endings are just containers that have finally broken open. What happened to the plant inside was up to me now. Ballard, Seattle. The beige apartment didn't get better with time. It absorbed the gray Seattle light and the sound of my own breathing, amplifying both. The settlement money was a ticking clock in my bank account. $3.200 for everything. Rent, food, gas, the staggering uncertainty of existing. I gave myself exactly 48 hours to wallow. I ate ice cream straight from the carton, watched terrible daytime TV, and cried until my head ached. On the morning of the third day, I took a shower, put on the most professional outfit I owned, a navy blazer and slacks that felt like a costume dot, and updated my LinkedIn profile. The headline glared back at me. Former executive liaison household manager seeking administrative opportunities. It sounded pathetic. It was pathetic. The job search was a special kind of humiliation. My 3-year gap as a homemaker with fertility focus was a black hole on my resume. Liam's world of tech startups and investor meetings was closed to me. I was now a liability, the ex-wife of a rising player. I finally landed a temporary administrative assistant role at a small, family-run marine supply company on the Ship Canal. The pay was $20 an hour. No benefits. The owner, a gruff man named Hank, looked at my overqualified resume and then at my trembling hands during the interview. Divorce? He'd asked. Not unkindly. I nodded, unable to speak. My sister went through one. Took her a year to stop jumping at door slams. You start Monday. The work was mind-numbing. Data entry, scheduling deliveries, answering phones with a chirpy Anderson Marine Supply. How can I direct your call? My fingers, which had once planned charity galas and curated wine lists, now fumbled with a clunky, decade-old office phone. My coworkers were kind in a distant, wary way. They'd heard whispers. Seattle's social circles, even the disparate ones, overlapped at the edges. I saw the pity in their eyes when they thought I wasn't looking. The worst was running into people from the old life. At a coffee shop near Pike Place Market, I bumped into Stacy, the wife of one of Liam's junior partners. Her eyes widened with the horrified glee of someone stumbling upon a traffic accident. Michelle, oh my God, it's so good to see you. Her hug was perfunctory. We've missed you at the club luncheons. How are you? I'm well, thanks. Keeping busy, I said, the automatic, polished lie slipping out. I heard about you and Liam. Just awful. She leaned in, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. He's seeing that real estate agent. You know, the one who sold the Petersons' condo on Lake Union. Blonde, very athletic. She paused, letting the image sink in. And pregnant, I hear. Already showing. Some women are just built right, I guess. The words were a physical blow. I felt the air leave my lungs. I managed a tight, Meaningless smile. Good for them. I have to run. Stacy. Client meeting. I fled. The coffee I'd just bought tasting like ash. The message was clear, delivered through Stacy's perfectly glossed lips. You were defective. You have been replaced by a superior model. One that is already performing its primary function. That I sat in my used Honda Civic, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white, waiting for the hot, shameful tears to come. They didn't. There was just a cold, hollow numbness. I threw myself into survival. I clipped coupons. I bought generic brand everything. I learned which grocery stores marked down rotisserie chickens at 8 p.m. sharp. My world shrank to the four walls of my apartment, the cluttered office at Anderson Marine, and the aisles of the QFC on Market Street. It was there, in the cereal aisle, that Aiden found me again. I was comparing the unit price of generic toasted oats versus the name brand Cheerios, a calculation that 3 years ago would have been beneath my notice. I felt a presence beside me and looked up. He had a handbasket holding a quart of milk, a loaf of sourdough, and a single, perfect avocado. His eyes went from my face to the two boxes in my hands. The generics, almost identical. He said, his voice quiet. They're made in the same plant. I blinked, startled. Aiden. Hi. I didn't know you shopped here. I don't. Usually. My usual store was out of this bread. He paused, his gaze taking in my cart. The generic pasta, the discount chicken, the bruised bananas on clearance. How are you settling in? The polite, expected answer was fine. Thanks. The truth, spurred by a week of swallowed pride and Stacy's venomous gossip, tumbled out. I'm calculating the cost per ounce of breakfast cereal. Aiden, how do you think I'm settling in? He didn't flinch. He just nodded slowly. Right. He looked at my cart again, then back at me. You forgot the heavy cream. For the lemon bars. It makes the filling set better. I stared at him. I haven't baked since. I know. He said it simply. Then, before I could react, he plucked the generic oats from my hand and put them in his basket. Get the Cheerios. The box lasts longer. He turned and walked towards the dairy section. Flustered, I put the Cheerios in my cart. My face burning. I hurried through the rest of my list, avoiding him. When I got to the checkout, the young cashier was already scanning my items. I swiped my debit card, holding my breath. Insufficient funds flashed on the PIN-pad screen. My heart seized. That was impossible. I'd just balanced my account last night. I swiped again. Same error. Is there a problem, ma'am? The cashier asked, her tone shifting from boredom to mild annoyance. Heat flooded my face. I must have miscalculated. Let me just put a few things back. It's all set. A calm voice said beside me. Aiden had appeared, his own few items already bagged. He handed the cashier a $100 bill. Keep the change. Aiden. No. I hissed, mortification lancing through me. I can't let you do that. You're holding up the line, he said, not unkindly, nodding to the person behind me. He gathered both our bags, his light one and my heavy, humiliatingly full one, and headed for the exit. I followed him, sputtering. I'll pay you back. Next week. I swear. This is just there must be a hold on my account or something. He stopped by his truck, which was parked next to my Civic. Liam froze the joint accounts. The one-year debit card was probably still linked to for autopay. It's a common power move. Call your bank. The cold, tactical assessment in his words cut through my panic. Of course. Liam was tidying up loose ends. Erasing me, I sagged against my car door. God, I'm such an idiot. You're not an idiot. You're in a war you didn't know you were fighting. He opened my passenger door and put the groceries inside. Go home. Call the bank. Eat something that isn't discount cereal. He handed me his bag, the one with the single avocado and the bread. Trade you. I like oats. He got into his truck and drove away, leaving me standing there with a bag of groceries I hadn't paid for and a lump in my throat the size of his engine block. A week later, my 12-year-old Civic gave up the ghost. It died with a final, shuddering gasp in the pouring rain on the Ballard Bridge during rush hour. I had the hazard lights on, windshield wipers fighting a losing battle, as a symphony of angry horns blared behind me. Tears of sheer frustration mixed with the rain on my face. This was it, the final, cosmic joke. I couldn't afford a tow, let alone a repair. My phone was at 5%. I scrolled past Liam's name blocked, past my mom's, I couldn't bear to tell her, and landed on the only other number in Seattle I knew by heart that wasn't a coworker or a business. I'd programmed it in after the grocery store incident, with the note Aiden, grocery money, $127.50. He answered on the second ring. McCoy. Aiden. It's Michelle. Michelle Anderson. I'm so sorry to bother you, but my cart died on the Ballard Bridge, and I don't know who else to call, and the AAA lapsed, and the words spilled out in a frantic, wet rush, location marker. Now, his voice was all business. I fumbled and shared my location via text. I'm so sorry. I whispered again. 15 minutes. Lock the doors. Do not get out of the car. He was there in 12. I saw his truck's headlights cut through the gloom, parking behind me with a set of amber strobes flashing on his roof. Professional grade. Not something you bought at an auto parts store. He was out in the rain in an instant, a dark silhouette in a waterproof jacket, talking to the traffic cop who had just arrived, flashing some ID from his wallet. 2 minutes later, a tow truck was backing up, directed by Aiden with sharp, efficient hand signals. He opened my passenger door. Come on, I'll take you home. I was drenched and shivering. My car. Jake's taking it to his shop. He's honest. He'll call with an estimate. He guided me to his truck, holding an umbrella over my head. The interior was clean, smelling of leather and coffee. It was immaculate. Not a single gum wrapper or receipt in sight. Military neat. We drove in silence for a few blocks. Thank you, I finally said, my teeth chattering. Again, I seemed to be making a habit of needing rescuing. You're not being rescued. Your transportation failed. You called for a logistical solution. I provided one. He glanced at me. You're freezing. He reached into the back seat, pulled out a gray fleece jacket. It's clean. Put it on. It was huge on me, swallowing my hands. But it was warm and smelled faintly of pine and something indefinably masculine. Safety. The estimate. I might not be able to. Let's cross that bridge when we get to it. Literally. A faint, almost smile touched his lips. It was the first hint of warmth I'd seen from him. He didn't take me to my apartment. He drove to a small, unassuming garage tucked under the Ballard locks. A sign read Jake's Precision Auto. A man in greasy coveralls waved us into a bay. Aiden got out, had a low, brief conversation with Jake, examining my car's engine with him. He nodded, pulled out his wallet, and handed over a card. When he got back in the truck, I was ready. Aiden. No, absolutely not. I'll take the bus. I'll figure it out. The alternator and the water pump are gone. Starter's on its last legs. Jake's giving you a deal at $800. Parts and labor. It's a write-off. Michelle, sinking more money into that car is a bad investment. $800? The number was a mountain. I don't have $800. I do. I can't take your money. You're not taking it. You're accepting a short-term, interest-free loan from a friend who doesn't want you to get hypothermia waiting for the bus in January. His tone left no room for argument. Jake will have it ready tomorrow by 5. I'll drive you to work and pick you up. Aiden, why are you doing this? The question burst out of me, raw and desperate. You don't owe me anything. I was just the neighbor who brought you baked goods. He was silent for a long moment, staring out at the rain-slicked street. Because someone did it for me once. He said, his voice quieter now. After my wife, Sarah, died, I was not in a good place. A friend from my unit. He just showed up. Fixed my roof. Didn't ask. Just did it. He said, you'd do it for me. He finally looked at me. You would have. For anyone. I've seen it. You took in Mrs. Gable's packages for a month when her knee was bad. You organized the block party, no one else could be bothered with. You brought lemon bars to the weird loner at the end of the street just because he fixed a planter. He put the truck in drive. Consider it community service. He drove me to my apartment building. As I moved to get out, he spoke again. There's a diner on 65th. The skyline. Good pie. If you want to talk. Or not talk. Tomorrow. After we pick up your car. No obligations. I looked at him. This quiet, serious, inexplicably kind man who seemed to see the wreckage of my life and offered not pity, but practical, no-string solutions. I was so tired of being alone. What time? 6. Okay. The Skyline Diner was all red vinyl and chrome, smelling of coffee and grilled onions. Aiden was already in a booth, 2 mugs of coffee in front of him. He'd got me the pie a la mode without asking. Apple. It was perfect. We made stilted, small talk for a few minutes. The car was running fine. Work was work. The rain was relentless. Then, I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the normalcy of the diner, the warmth of the coffee, the sheer, unadulterated kindness of the man sitting across from me. The story spilled out. Not the cleaned-up version, I told my mom, but the ugly, humiliating truth. The fertility charts, the IVF failures, Liam's cold, boardroom analysis of my defective biology, the threat to bury me in legal fees, the pregnant real estate agent. Aiden listened. He didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes. He just listened, his steady gaze fixed on me. When I finished, my pie uneaten, my coffee cold, I felt drained. And now I'm the pathetic divorcee crying in a diner to her former neighbor. I'm so sorry. You didn't sign up for this. Stop apologizing for existing. Michelle, he said, his voice low but firm. He stirred his coffee, the spoon clinking softly against the mug. I lost my wife to cancer 3 years ago. Glioblastoma. 8 months from diagnosis to the end. He said it flatly. The pain long since hardened into a permanent scar. She was kind like you. The kind of person who saw the good first. Liam's a fool, and a short-sighted one. He traded a diamond for a piece of glass that happens to be fertile. It's his loss, not yours. His words, so stark and certain, shattered something inside me. The careful wall of I'm fine crumbled. A sob escaped, then another. I cried there in the booth, quiet, shuddering tears of grief for the life I'd lost, for the children I'd never have, for the sheer, overwhelming loneliness. He didn't try to hug me or shush me. He just slid a clean, paper napkin across the table and waited. When the storm passed, I wiped my face, embarrassed. I feel so stupid for believing in the fairy tale, for thinking I was enough. The fairy tale's bullshit, he said, not unkindly. Real life is what happens after the dragon shows up. It's about who stands with you to fight it. He pushed the pie towards me. Eat. You need the calories. I took a bite. It was sweet, tangy, solid, real. What was her name? Your wife? Sarah, he said, and a real, soft smile touched his eyes for the first time. She was a librarian, hated my cooking, loved terrible action movies. She'd have liked you. I would have liked her, too. We sat in a comfortable silence for a moment. Then he said, Liam's lawyer sent you another letter. I froze. How do you know that? You told me he was threatening legal action. It's what guys like him do. They can't stand loose ends. It was a logical next step. His tone was matter of fact. Have you opened it? No. It's on my counter. I'm scared to. You shouldn't be. It's a bluff. You don't know that. He has the money. The lawyers. I know his type. Bullies escalate until they meet resistance. You haven't had any to give him. Yet, he leaned forward slightly. There's a pro bono legal clinic at the University of Washington Law School. Top students, supervised by professors. They live for cases like this. Asymmetric warfare against a bully with deep pockets. It's good practice for them. Let them be your resistance. Hope, fragile and terrifying, flickered in my chest. You think. I know. He took a last sip of coffee. My house has 2 empty bedrooms. The rent is 0. Before you say no, hear me out. You're paying $1,200 a month for a box that's depressing you. That money could go to the lawyer, to savings, to getting back on your feet. The rooms are just gathering it. And no, he added, his gaze direct. This isn't a proposition. Separate rooms, separate lives under one roof. A strategic alliance. I stared at him, utterly floored. Aiden, I can't move in with you. The neighbors. Liam, what would people think? The neighbors already think I'm a weird loner, and you're a tragic figure. This won't change the headlines. And Liam can think whatever the hell he wants. He forfeited his opinion when he served you papers at a restaurant. He held up a hand, counting off points on his fingers. 1. It's financially smart. 2. It gets you out of a place that's making you sad. 3. My dog could use the company. 4. I'm hardly ever there. I travel for work. You'd have the place to yourself. Most of the time. The dog? I asked, grasping at the most normal part of his insane offer. Ranger. German Shepherd. He's a good judge of character. Likes lemon bars. 2. He slid out of the booth and stood, dropping enough cash on the table to cover the bill and a generous tip. Think about it. No pressure. The offer stands. He gave me a short nod. I'll wait while you call the law clinic. Let me know what they say. He walked to the front to wait by the door, giving me space. I sat in the booth, the remains of the pie in front of me, the world tilting on its axis once again, a lifeline thrown by the most unexpected person, not a romantic gesture, but a tactical one, a strategic alliance. I took out my phone, my hands only slightly trembling. I found the number for the UW Law Clinic. I took a deep breath, and I dialed. The silence in Aiden's house was different. It wasn't the empty, echoing silence of my Ballard apartment. This silence was lived in, comfortable, like a well-worn leather jacket. It was broken by the steady tick of an analog clock in the hallway, the soft click-click of Ranger's nails on the hardwood floors, and the occasional distant hum of a furnace that actually worked. My first week was a study in careful, deliberate coexistence. I occupied the guest room at the front of the house, which was Spartan but clean, a queen bed with a navy quilt, a sturdy oak dresser, a window looking out onto the quiet street. It felt safe. Aiden's room was at the opposite end of the hallway, a closed door, a boundary I had no intention of crossing. I insisted on paying for groceries. He agreed. But then he'd come home from errands with bags from Metropolitan Market, the good artisanal cheese, the wild-caught salmon, the dark chocolate I'd mentioned liking once. Aiden, this is twice what I gave you, I said one evening, holding up a package of duck breast that cost more than my weekly lunch budget. He was wiping down the already spotless kitchen counters. They had a sale. They do not have sales on duck breast from Sonoma. Then I miscalculated. He didn't look up. Consider it a roommate tax for not leaving hair in the drain. I tried to contribute. I cooked. Simple. Hearty meals, pot roast, chicken pot pie, a big salad. He ate everything with a quiet appreciation, always washing the dishes afterward despite my protests. We'd sit in the living room after dinner, him reading reports on a tablet, me studying for my real estate, continuing education credits. Ranger sprawled between us. It was peaceful, a fragile, newfound peace I was terrified of shattering. The outside world, however, was not peaceful. I saw the looks when I went for a run. The curtain twitches. Carol Gable, the neighborhood gossip, accidentally met me at the mailbox. Michelle, dear, we were all so supercento see you moving in with Mr. McCoy. Her smile was all saccharine and sharp edges. Such a practical solution. I'm sure. It's temporary. Carol, while I get back on my feet. Of course. Dear. And how is Liam? We see his car coming and going at all hours, with different passengers. She leaned in, a young blonde, just last night. Couldn't have been a day over 25. It must be so hard for you to see. I kept my smile plastered on. Liam's life is his own now. Have a good day. Carol. The worst was Liam himself. He seemed to take my presence in the neighborhood, and specifically in Aiden's house, as a personal affront. One Saturday morning, as I was weeding the small flower bed Aiden had said I could use, Liam's Tesla purred to a stop at the curb. He was with a willowy brunette. He didn't get out. He just rolled down the passenger window. Well, look at that. Playing gardener now. Michelle? His voice carried across the quiet street. I see you've fully embraced the rustic aesthetic. The woman beside him tittered. I stood up, brushing dirt from my knees, saying nothing. This is Chloe. Liam continued, undeterred. She's in commercial real estate. Just closed a $12 million deal on Broad Street. He put a possessive hand on her thigh. And she's got other, more fundamental talents. Unlike some people, she doesn't have any functional issues. Chloe had the decency to look slightly uncomfortable. My face burned, but I met his gaze. Congratulations to you both. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do that don't involve harassing my ex-wife. I turned and walked back into the house, my hand shaking. Aiden was in the kitchen, sharpening a set of chef's knives with a methodical swish-swish of steel on a whetstone. He'd seen it all from the window. He's trying to get a reaction, Aiden said, his voice calm. He didn't look up from the knife. He's a predator. He pokes at weak spots. You reacting. That's his food. I didn't react. I said, my voice tight. You're shaking. He finally looked at me. That's a reaction. He saw it. It'll encourage him. So what should I do? Ignore him while he parades his fertile real estate agents past my face? For now, yes. He set the knife down. Timing is everything. Michelle, let him dig his own grave. The deeper he digs, the harder it is to climb out. I didn't understand what he meant, but the certainty in his tone was an anchor. I nodded, taking a deep breath. The UW Law Clinic took my case. They're sending a cease and desist about the harassment, and they're contesting his seizure of my personal jewelry account. They say the prenup clause is enforceable. Good. That single word held more satisfaction than a full sentence from anyone else. Let the professionals handle the law. You focus on building your new life. Building my new life meant studying. I passed my real estate broker's exam. Aiden framed the certificate and hung it in the kitchen, next to a faded photo of him and a smiling, kind-faced woman. Sarah Dot on a mountain trail. It's a start, he said. I need to actually work now, I said, feeling a surge of anxiety. I can't just hide here and study forever. You're not hiding. You're regrouping. He paused, as if weighing his words. And wait until after the surprise I'm planning. Surprise? Aiden, I don't need surprises. I need a paycheck. This will help with that. Trust me. Trust. It was the foundation our strange arrangement was built on. And I did trust him, implicitly, but the mystery gnawed at me. He traveled at least 1 week a month, always saying he was meeting with clients back east. He'd return looking tired but focused, sometimes with a small, elegant gift for me, that a first edition of a book I loved, a scarf from a museum in D.C. The gifts felt expensive, out of sync with the simple, almost ascetic life he led at home. One day, a thick, creamy envelope arrived for him. It was on the entryway table. The return address was embossed, discreet, McCoy Strategic Solutions, 1201 3rd Avenue, Suite 2200, Seattle. Wah. My breath caught. 1201. 3rd Avenue was the Columbia Center, the tallest skyscraper in Seattle, the most expensive office space in the city. When Aiden came home that evening, I was waiting, the envelope in my hand. You got mail. He took it, his expression unreadable. Thanks. McCoy Strategic Solutions, I said, keeping my voice neutral. That's your consulting work? Hom. He started to walk towards his study, the one room whose door was always locked. Aiden. He stopped. What kind of consulting has offices in the Columbia Center? He turned, his gaze level. The boring, lucrative kind. Government contracts, risk assessment, systems analysis. Dull stuff. It doesn't sound dull. It sounds big. The office is a conference room I rent by the hour for client meetings. It's for show. The real work is done elsewhere. He offered a faint smile. Don't be too impressed. It's mostly spreadsheets and security clearances. It was a plausible explanation, but it felt like another piece of a puzzle I couldn't see the whole picture of. The harassment escalated. A plain manila envelope appeared in Aiden's mailbox with no postage. Inside were photos. Me leaving the house for a run. Me loading groceries into my now functioning Civic. Me laughing with Aiden on the porch as he showed me how to prune a rose bush. The last one was taken with a long lens. Intimate, catching the unguarded ease on my face I hadn't felt in years. A note was paper-clipped to it. Trash belongs with trash. Liam's handwriting. I felt sick. Aiden examined the photos. His face a mask of cold neutrality. Professional grade. Long-range lens. Steady hand. He hired someone. What do we do? Call the police? The police will call it a domestic dispute and do nothing. He's not making overt threats. Just being a pest. Aiden's eyes were like flint. I'll handle it. How? Aiden, you can't just handle a private investigator. I won't be handling the investigator. He took the photos and the note. I'll be handling the man who hired him. Wait here. He went into his study. I heard the solid thunk of the lock turning. 20 minutes later, he emerged, wearing a dark jacket. Where are you going? To have a chat. I'll be back for dinner. He paused at the door. Don't wait up if I'm late. He was gone for 3 hours. I paced. Ranger whined, sensing my anxiety. When Aiden returned, he looked exactly as he had when he left. Calm. Composed. He hung up his jacket and went to wash his hands. Well, I demanded, following him into the kitchen. It's handled. What does that mean? Aiden? Did you see Liam? Did you hurt him? He gave me a look that was almost amused. No, Michelle, I don't need to hurt people to make them stop. I found the investigator, a guy named Rollins. Works out of a strip mall office in Bellevue. Ex-cop. Not very good. I showed him the photos. Asked him who hired him. He was reluctant until I mentioned I'd be forwarding his unlicensed surveillance activities, along with some interesting financial irregularities from his time on the force, to his former captain and the state licensing board. My eyes widened. How did you know about that? I told you. I hear things. He dried his hands meticulously. He gave me Liam's name readily enough. Then I paid a visit to Liam at his office. You went to TechVantage? I did. Walked right past his new blonde assistant. He was in a meeting with his CFO. I waited. Aiden's voice was deadly quiet. When he came out, I gave him the photos back. I told him to tell Mr. Anderson that if one more photo appears, just one, I'll release the full forensic financial audit of his embezzlement at TechVantage to the SEC, the board, and the Seattle Times. I told him he'd understand. My jaw dropped. Embezzlement? Aiden, what are you talking about? Liam's been skimming from his own company's RD fund for 2 years, funneling it into a shell account in the Caymans. He thinks it's cleverly hidden. It's not. A first-year forensic accountant could find it. How could you possibly know that? For a long moment, he just looked at me. The silence stretched, filled only by the ticking clock. I saw the calculation in his eyes, the weighing of how much to reveal. Who are you really? Aiden? I asked, the question a whisper. You're not just a consultant. You rent an office in the Columbia Center. You know about illegal surveillance and police misconduct. And you have a full forensic audit of a tech company's finances just ready to go? Who are you? He leaned back against the counter, crossing his arms. My company, McCoy Strategic Solutions, does classified work for 3-letter agencies. DoD, DHS, sometimes the CIA. We test security systems, physical and digital. We run background checks so deep they'd make a psychiatrist blush. We assess threats. He paused, letting that sink in. When I moved here after Sarah died, I wanted quiet, anonymity. The house, the truck, it's all part of the profile. A low profile, harmless veteran. It's useful. So you're a spy? The word felt ridiculous coming out of my mouth. He almost laughed. No, I'm a businessman who provides a very specific, very discreet service. My clients are governments and corporations who need to know things. And yes, I hear things about Liam, about many people. I knew about his embezzlement 6 months ago. I knew he was a narcissist and a bully. I knew he'd try to destroy you on the way out. His gaze softened. I just didn't know I'd care so much about stopping him. The room seemed to spin. The quiet neighbor, the man who fixed fences and ate pot roast, was a high-level security contractor with access to the darkest secrets of people like Liam. It was insane. It was terrifying. And yet it explained everything. The calm confidence, the resources, the absolute lack of fear. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have let me help you if you knew? Would you have accepted a loan from a consultant or moved in with him? He shook his head. You needed a friend. Michelle, not a source of more complication. I was trying to be that. I sank into a kitchen chair, my mind reeling. So all of this, the help, the groceries, the car, it wasn't just kindness. It was what? A project? His expression hardened. The first real flash of anger I'd seen from him. Don't. The word was sharp. Don't cheapen this. What I feel for you has nothing to do with my job. The man washing dishes with you, worrying about you. That's the real me. The CEO. The guy with the security clearances. That's just a suit I wear to work. The heart underneath is the same. And it's yours, if you want it. The air left the room. He'd never said anything even close to that. We'd been careful, polite, compartmentalized. This was a direct hit. A vulnerability laid bare. Aiden, I'm not asking for an answer now, he said, his voice rough. I'm just telling you the truth. The whole truth. You deserve that. The photo stopped. Liam Tesla no longer cruised slowly past the house. A brittle, tense calm settled over the neighborhood. And between Aiden and me, something had shifted. The careful boundaries were still there, but they felt more permeable. We talked more. He told me about Sarah, about the gut-wrenching loss, about the years of numbness that followed. I told him about my dreams that had nothing to do with Liam, that opening a small design firm, helping other women rebuild. One evening, he was under the kitchen sink, fixing a persistent drip. I was handing him tools. Ranger was snoring at our feet. Hand me the adjustable wrench, he said, his voice muffled. I passed it down. Our fingers brushed. It was a simple, mundane touch, but it sent a current through me. I realized, with a sudden, profound clarity, that I felt more at home in this moment, on this floor, with this man, than I ever had in the marble perfection of Liam's townhouse. Aiden tightened something, gave a satisfied grunt, and slid out. He sat up, wiping his hands on a rag. He looked at me, a smudge of grease on his cheek. Fixed. I reached out without thinking and wiped the grease away with my thumb. The contact was electric. We both froze. He caught my wrist, his grip gentle but firm. His eyes searched mine, dark and intense. Michelle, I'm not fragile. Aiden, I whispered. Not anymore. He stood, pulling me up with him. We were inches apart. I could feel the heat radiating from him, see the pulse beating in his throat. This could be permanent, he said, his voice low and rough. You and me, not as roommates, not as a strategic alliance, as partners. What do you think? It wasn't a flowery proposal. It was a statement of fact, an offer of a shared future, built on the honest, unglamorous rubble of our pasts. It was the most real thing anyone had ever said to me. I didn't hesitate. I didn't need to. I saw our future in his steady gaze. Not a fairy tale, but a shared life of repaired leaks and quiet dinners and fierce, unshakable loyalty. Yes, I said. The word was simple, final, and absolutely certain. He didn't kiss me then. He just rested his forehead against mine. A long, slow exhale shuddering through him, as if he'd been holding his breath for years. Okay, he murmured. Okay. We were married 2 weeks later at the King County Courthouse. The only witnesses were the young law student from the UW clinic who had championed my case, and Jake, the mechanic. I wore a simple cream-colored dress. Aiden wore his one good suit. Ranger wore a bandana. As we walked down the courthouse steps, Hand in hand. My phone buzzed. A series of texts from Liam's number. City Hall? Really scraping the bottom. Michelle, I guess congratulations are in order. To both of you paupers, don't come crawling back when his veterans' benefits run out. I showed the screen to Aiden. He took my phone, typed a single response, and hit send before handing it back. The message read, "Watch the mail. Anderson." He then took my hand again, his grip warm and sure. "Let's go home. Mrs. McCoy." The new name felt strange on my ears, but on my heart, it felt like coming home. 6 weeks later, the quiet in the house had a different texture now. It wasn't just the absence of noise. It was a shared, comfortable space between heartbeats. I was Mrs. McCoy. The name still felt foreign on my tongue. A new suit I was trying on, but on the inside, it was starting to fit. It meant waking up to the smell of coffee Aiden had time to brew just before his alarm, and falling asleep to the solid, reassuring weight of his arm around my waist. It meant shared toothpaste and quiet laughter over the crossword puzzle. It was real, and it was ordinary in all the right ways, except for the parts that weren't. Aiden traveled. It was the one constant that disrupted our new, fragile domesticity. Every 3 weeks or so, he'd pack a single, worn leather duffel bag. "Back east again?" I'd ask, trying to keep my voice light as I handed him a travel mug of coffee. "Client meetings in D.C. and Virginia." He'd say, kissing my forehead, "Shouldn't be more than 4 days. I'll call when I land." He always did. Brief, functional calls. Landed. In the hotel. Meeting ran late. Talk tomorrow. He'd return looking tired. The lines around his eyes deeper, but with a quiet energy humming beneath the surface. And he always brought a gift. Not flowers or chocolates, but small, shockingly thoughtful things. A first edition copy of To Kill a Mockingbird from a legendary DC bookstore, because I'd mentioned it was my favorite. A scarf of impossibly soft cashmere from a tiny shop in Georgetown. A set of hand-forged kitchen knives that made our old ones look like toys. "Aiden, these are there too much." I protested the first time, holding the beautiful, deadly sharp chef's knife. "They're just tools," he said, shrugging. "Good tools for a good cook." He said it so simply, as if buying handcrafted Damascus steel knives was the same as picking up a gallon of milk. The extravagance of the gifts clashed with the man who still drove a 10-year-old truck and wore the same 3 pairs of jeans. It added to the puzzle. Meanwhile, Liam's campaign of petty cruelty shifted. The private investigator was gone, but Liam himself was a constant, toxic presence. He seemed to take our marriage as a personal insult, since he couldn't legally harass me directly without violating the restraining order the UW clinic had secured. He settled for flaunting his new life. He'd be outside, washing his Tesla, when Aiden and I left for a walk. A different woman would be with him each time. All blonde, all young, all laughing a little too loudly. He'd rev the engine of his Porsche 911 as he drove past Aiden's house. The worst was the 4th of July block party. It was the first neighborhood event I'd attended since the divorce. Aiden, to my surprise, agreed to go. "Can't let him think he's running us off," he'd said simply. We were standing by the communal picnic table, me holding a paper plate with a burger I couldn't eat, when Liam swaggered up. He had his latest accessory on his arm, a woman named Sasha, a Pilates instructor, according to Carol Gable's frantic whisper in my ear 5 minutes prior. "Michelle." "Aiden," Liam said, his voice dripping with false bonhomie. "Nice to see you two," blending in. His eyes swept over Aiden's simple chinos and polo shirt, a silent commentary on their cost. "Liam," I said, my voice flat. "This is Sasha," he announced, squeezing her waist. "We're expecting, due in December." Finally found a woman whose body actually knows what it's supposed to do. He laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. Sasha had the decency to look at her sandals. Aiden's hand, which had been resting lightly on the small of my back, didn't move. He didn't tense. He took a slow sip of his lemonade. "Congratulations," he said, his tone utterly neutral, as if commenting on the weather. Children are a blessing. I hope you're worthy of yours. Liam's smirk faltered for a second, thrown by the response. He recovered quickly. Oh, I'll be worthy, providing the best of everything. Not all of us have to scrounge. You know, he looked pointedly at our modest spread. Timing is everything. Liam, Aiden said, his voice dropping to a low, almost conversational pitch that somehow carried more threat than a shout. Let him dig his own grave. Michelle, remember? He wasn't speaking to Liam anymore. He was reminding me. He turned his back, guiding me gently away. The potato salad looks better over here. I was trembling, a cocktail of rage and humiliation. I hate him. I hate that he gets to be happy, to have a baby. After everything, he's not happy, Aiden said, handing me a napkin. And the baby is a prop. Watch. In 6 months, he'll be with someone else. And Sasha will be just another line item on his child support spreadsheet. A grave. Michelle. He's digging it. I wanted to believe him, but the sight of Sasha's barely their bump. The proprietary way Liam touched it felt like a knife twisting in a wound that had never fully healed. Aiden left for another trip the following Tuesday. The silence of the house felt heavier without him. I'd taken the Washington State real estate exam and passed. My license, framed by Aiden, hung in our home office, that a small room we'd set up with 2 desks. His was always meticulously clean, just a high-end laptop and a secure, encrypted phone. Mine was already littered with study materials for a new project, management certification, and listings from the local MLS. I was trying. I was building. But a seed of anxiety had been planted. Liam's words echoed. Scrounging, was that what I was doing? Living in Aiden's house. Studying for jobs I might not get. While he jetted off to meetings I knew nothing about. When he returned that Friday, I met him at the door. He went to kiss me, but I pulled back. We need to talk. He set his duffel down slowly, his eyes searching my face. Okay, what's wrong? Where do you go? Aiden? Really? Client meetings is a cop-out. You come back looking like you haven't slept, and you bring me presents that cost more than my first car. Who are these clients? What do you really do? He didn't look away. He just nodded, as if he'd been expecting this. Let's sit down. We sat on the couch. Ranger laid his head on my lap, sensing the tension. Aiden leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, steepling his fingers. The meetings are real. The clients are real. They're government agencies and Fortune 100 companies. The work is sensitive. I sign non-disclosure agreements, thicker than your arm. I can't tell you specifics. So I'm just supposed to accept that? My husband disappears for days. Could be doing anything. I'm assessing vulnerabilities. He interrupted, his voice calm but firm. Physical security, cyber security, personnel. A bank hires us to try to hack them. A government agency hires us to see if we can smuggle a dummy device into a secure facility. It's problem solving. It's what I'm good at. He reached out and took my hand. The secrecy isn't about you. It's the job. But you're right. You deserve more than that. He took a deep breath. McCoy Strategic Solutions. It's not a one-man consulting firm. It's my company. I founded it 8 years ago, after I left the service. I'm the majority owner, CEO, and lead operative. I stared at him. Your company, the one with the office in the Columbia Center. A real office, not just a conference room. We have 37 employees, most of them ex-special forces or intelligence. The low-profile life here, it's a choice. It keeps my family off the radar of people who might want to leverage you to get to me or my clients. He squeezed my hand. I'm not poor. Michelle, far from it. I've been waiting for the right time to tell you, to show you everything. I wanted you to be with me for me, not for what I have. The pieces clicked into place with an almost audible snap. The security system on the house that was light years beyond the neighborhood norm. The calm certainty. The resources. It wasn't just a comfortable life. It was a fortress of his own making. How much is far from it? The question felt crass, but I had to know. He told me, a number so large it was abstract, meaningless. It wasn't just wealth, It was generational. Fuck you money. The kind of money that could buy and sell Liam's entire tech startup without blinking. I felt dizzy. And you live here? In this house? Drive that truck? I like this house. I like that truck. The money is a tool. Michelle, it lets me do the work I want, protect the people I care about, and live a life that isn't about showing off. Until now, the only person I needed to protect was myself. Now it's you. His gaze was intense. I was going to tell you. I was planning a surprise, a way to show you, to give you the security you should have always had. But your peace of mind is more important than any grand gesture. The company is mine. The money is ours. You never have to worry about Liam or anything else ever again. The enormity of it washed over me. The man I'd married, the quiet, capable neighbor, was a powerhouse, a ghost in the machine of power. And he'd chosen me. I need to work. Aiden, I whispered, the fight gone out of me, replaced by a profound vulnerability. I can't just be your kept wife. I need to be my own person. He cupped my face, his thumb stroking my cheek. You're not kept. You're my partner. And you're rebuilding. The licenses, the studying, that's you building your foundation. I'll support that, 100%. But let me give you the safety net you deserve while you do it. Let me give you the surprise. It's almost ready. What surprise? A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. The one that transformed him from the serious operative to the man I'd fallen in love with. You'll see. Just a little longer. Trust me. I did. Against all logic. After all the lies of my past. I trusted him completely. 2 weeks later, the world tilted on its axis again. I was late. Not just a little late. I was never late. A cold, familiar dread pooled in my stomach, followed by a wild, terrifying hope I refused to name. I bought a test, then 3, from 3 different drugstores. Like a thief, I took them all in the pristine white bathroom of the house that was now, inexplicably, my home. I set a timer on my phone and paced, my heart hammering against my ribs. The timer beeped. 2 pink lines. On all 3, I sank to the floor, my back against the cool bathtub, the plastic sticks clattering from my numb hands. Pregnant, after years of failure, of invasive procedures and soul-crushing disappointment. It had happened simply, naturally, in the quiet of a marriage built on friendship and fierce loyalty. Terror and joy warred in me. I was older now. What if something went wrong? What if my body failed again? What if the front door opened? Michelle, you home? Aiden's voice called. I scrambled to my feet, shoving the tests under the sink. I wasn't ready. I needed to process, to plan, to see a doctor. I walked out, my face pale. He took one look at me and was across the room in 2 strides. What's wrong? Are you sick? I need to sit down. He guided me to the couch, his face etched with concern. Talk to me. I took a shuddering breath. I'm late. Very late. I took a test. 3 tests. His entire body went very, very still, and I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears blurring my vision. For a second, he didn't move. Then, a tremor went through him. The usually unflappable Aiden McCoy looked utterly, completely shattered by hope. You're sure? 3 tests. Aiden, they don't make mistakes that often. A sound escaped him. Half sob, half laugh. He pulled me into his arms, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. A baby, he whispered into my hair, his voice thick. Our baby. We sat like that for a long time, wrapped in a bubble of stunned, joyous disbelief. Then, the practical operator in him surfaced. He pulled back, his hands cradling my face. First thing tomorrow, we see a doctor. The best. I'll make the calls. Aiden, it's Friday night. We can call my OB on Monday. No, he said, and there was a steel in his voice I'd only heard once before when he'd confronted Liam's investigator. We're not taking any chances. Not with this. He stood, pulling out his phone, not his personal one, but the sleek, encrypted device. He scrolled and hit a number. Evelyn, Aiden McCoy. I need you. Yes. Tonight. No, it's not that. It's my wife. She's pregnant. He listened for a moment, his eyes locked on mine, shining with a wet sheen. I know. Thank you. I'm activating the Sterling protocol. Yes. Full suite. OB and neonatal. I'll text you the details. Money is no object. Just keep her safe. Keep them both safe. He ended the call. Dr. Evelyn Sterling, the best maternal fetal medicine specialist on the West Coast. She's on retainer for certain clients. She'll be here within the hour with a mobile ultrasound. By Monday, you'll have a full team: obstetrician, nutritionist, doula, therapist, whatever you need, a concierge medical team. It's called the Sterling Protocol. It's what they use for high-profile clients who require absolute discretion and the highest level of care. I was reeling. Here? An ultrasound here? Tonight? Tonight, he said, his voice brooking no argument. He knelt before me, taking my hands. For 3 years, you fought for this alone. You were dismissed, diminished, and discarded. That ends now. You are the most important person in the world to me, and you are carrying our child. You will have an army of the best people on the planet making sure you're both healthy and happy. That's not a luxury. Michelle, that's my absolute, non-negotiable right as your husband. Dr. Sterling arrived an hour later, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s with intelligent eyes and a calm demeanor. She set up a portable ultrasound machine in our living room. The gel was warm. Aiden held my hand, his grip almost painfully tight. The grainy, black and white image appeared on the screen. Dr. Sterling moved the wand, her face focused. Then she smiled. Well, hello there, she murmured. She turned the screen slightly. See that flicker? That's the heartbeat. Strong and perfect. Aiden made a choked sound beside me. And there, Dr. Sterling said, moving the wand a fraction, is the other one. Silence. Other one? I managed to whisper. You're having twins. Michelle, Dr. Sterling said, her smile widening. 2 perfect little heartbeats. I looked at Aiden. Tears were streaming openly down his face. He wasn't trying to hide them. He looked at me, then back at the screen, where 2 tiny, blinking stars of life pulsed in the static. The man who faced down corporate spies and government agents was brought to his knees by the sight of 2 specks on a monitor. Twins. He breathed, his voice full of awe. Then he laughed, a pure, unadulterated sound of joy I'd never heard from him before. He leaned down and kissed me, deeply, passionately, in front of the doctor and the universe. Later, after Dr. Sterling had left with a stack of instructions and promises of a full team arriving Monday, we lay in bed, wrapped around each other. My hand rested on my still flat stomach, a secret garden of miracles. Aiden? I whispered into the dark. The company, McCoy Strategic. How did you? From the military to this? He was quiet for a moment, his fingers stroking my hair. After Sarah died, I had a lot of anger, a lot of skills, and a decent severance. A buddy from the teams had gone into executive protection. He introduced me to a guy at the Department of Energy who needed a stress test on a new nuclear facility's security. We found 17 vulnerabilities. Word got around. I hired a few smart, quiet people I trusted. We never advertised. The work just came. I built it into what it is because I had nothing else to focus on. Until you. He kissed the top of my head. You asked me once what I saw in you. I saw a woman who'd had her life blown apart and was still standing. A woman who baked lemon bars for a lonely neighbor. A woman with strength she didn't even know she had. You ran a household, a social calendar. You got certifications just to prove you could. You're the most capable person I know. Michelle, you just needed someone to give you a foundation to build on. Liam saw you as an appliance. I see you as the architect. His words settled over me, warm and solid as a blanket. The final piece of the puzzle, the why of this incredible man, slid into place. He wasn't rescuing me. He was recognizing me. And in doing so, he'd given me back to myself. As I drifted to sleep, curled in the fortress of his arms, a single, clear thought cut through the joy and the fear. Liam Anderson, with his money and his sports cars and his pregnant Pilates instructor, had no idea what was coming. He'd thrown away a diamond, and in his arrogance, he'd tossed it right into the hands of a man who knew its true value and had the power of a volcano waiting to erupt beneath his feet. 3 months later, the Sterling Protocol wasn't just medical care, it was an occupation, a benevolent, luxurious, utterly comprehensive occupation of my life. Within 72 hours of that first ultrasound, our quiet craftsman home underwent a subtle but profound transformation. A team of discreet technicians installed a whole-house water filtration system and a state-of-the-art air purification unit that hummed almost inaudibly. The guest room was converted into a sunlit nursery annex, with a premium organic cotton glider and a prototype smart bassinet that monitored vitals. A sleek, commercial-grade refrigerator appeared in the kitchen, stocked by a weekly delivery service from a boutique organic farm in the San Juan Islands. Each item barcoded and tracked for provenance. Dr. Evelyn Sterling became my constant, calm companion. She was at my first official prenatal appointment at the swanky, private Swedish maternal fetal medicine center, effortlessly commandeering the head of the department for a consultation. Standard procedures are for standard pregnancies, Dr. Sterling said, not unkindly, to the wide-eyed resident. Mrs. McCoy's pregnancy is anything but standard. It's a priority 1 event. You'll follow my lead. And they did. I had weekly ultrasounds, not monthly. Blood work was processed in-house within hours. A gentle but formidable nutritionist named Anya devised meal plans that somehow made kale and bone broth appealing. A prenatal yoga instructor, a serene woman named Leela, came to the house 3 times a week. My every twinge, craving, and emotional fluctuation was logged, analyzed, and catered to with military precision. It was overwhelming, smothering, and, I had to admit, a profound relief. For the first time in my life, my body was being treated not as a problem to be solved, but as a treasure to be guarded. Aiden was transformed. The cool, collected operator was gone, replaced by a man of endearing, slightly frantic devotion. He attended every appointment, his large hand engulfing mine, asking detailed, technical questions that impressed even Dr. Sterling. What's the median corpus luteum volume in a dichorionic, diamniotic twin pregnancy at 18 weeks? And are Michelle's numbers within range? He'd ask, having clearly spent the previous night on medical journals. Mr. McCoy, I'm the doctor. Dr. Sterling would reply dryly, but with a hint of a smile. Her numbers are exemplary. The babies are perfect. The babies, Grace and Samuel, as we decided to name them, seeing their little forms, active and growing. On the high-definition screen was a joy that eclipsed the relentless morning sickness that plagued me. Aiden had a solution for that, too. He had a lighting engineer install a special, nausea-reducing spectrum of light in the bathrooms and kitchen. He found an acupuncturist specializing in prenatal care who made house calls. Nothing was too outlandish, too expensive, or too much trouble. He also started talking to my belly. Low, rumbling conversations about geopolitics, the structural integrity of bridges, and the migratory patterns of geese. They need to be well informed. He'd tell me, completely serious, when I laughed at him. It was during one of these domestic scenes. Aiden reading the Wall Street Journal aloud to my stomach while I sipped ginger tea that the first shot in Liam's new war was fired. A thick, formal envelope arrived from the Queen and Community Association. It was addressed to the occupant. What's this? I asked, handing it to Aiden. He slid it open with a knife, his eyes scanning the contents. A muscle twitched in his jaw. A violation notice, citing excessive and non-conforming exterior modifications detrimental to community aesthetics and property values. What modifications? The new security camera? The paint is the same color. It lists the commercial-grade air handling unit, the unsanctioned structural reinforcement of the rear deck, and the proliferation of professional service vehicles creating a disruptive parking pattern. He looked up, a cold light in his eyes. The service vehicles are Dr. Sterling's and the nutritionist's. Liam's on the HOA board. He's using it. He can't do that. This is our home. He's trying. Aiden's voice was calm, but it was the calm of a glassy sea before a storm. It's a nuisance tactic. Fines, hearings, legal fees. He wants to harass us, make our lives difficult. Over the next week, the harassment escalated. A city inspector showed up, claiming an anonymous complaint about unpermitted electrical work. The work was fully permitted. Aiden had the documents in hand before the inspector finished his sentence. A noise complaint was filed for late-night mechanical disturbance, the ultra-quiet air purifier. Carol Gable, looking sheepish, stopped by to say the neighborhood consensus was that the comings and goings were disruptive to the community's character. The final straw came on a Saturday morning. Liam himself was outside, directing a landscaper to plant a row of obnoxiously tall, fast-growing arborvitae along the property line, clearly intended to block our view and sunlight. He saw us watching from the window and gave a smug, little wave. Aiden watched him for a long, silent minute. Then he picked up his encrypted phone and walked into his study. He emerged 20 minutes later. "It's handled," he said, kissing my temple. "Handled how? You'll see." The following Monday, a different kind of official letter arrived. It was from a prestigious law firm, Bryant Colson, on behalf of a holding company called M. Birch LLC. It informed the Queen and HOA that M. Birch LLC had acquired, as of 5 p.m. Friday, the 12 properties comprising our subsection of the street, including Liam's townhouse, which he owned, and the 6 other houses. As the sole voting member of this newly consolidated property block, M. Birch LLC was hereby withdrawing from the Queen and HOA and dissolving all covenants and restrictions for its holdings. Furthermore, all fines levied against the property at our address were null and void, and any future complaints should be directed to Bryant Colson. I read the letter twice. My mouth agape. You bought the whole street? Through a shell company? Yes. Aiden was calmly feeding Ranger. It was simpler than fighting them. Now, they have no jurisdiction. The HOA is effectively neutered on this block. Liam's little kingdom just shrank considerably. But the cost, a strategic investment, and satisfying, he allowed himself a small, tight smile. The look on his face when he gets the letter will be worth every penny. It was from our living room window. We saw the mail truck deliver the envelopes. A few hours later, Liam stormed out of his house, the letter crumpled in his fist, his face a thundercloud of rage and disbelief. He glared at our house, then got in his Tesla and screeched away. The victory was sweet, but short-lived. The twins grew. My belly swelled, and with it, a new, profound sense of vulnerability bloomed. I was a walking symbol of everything Liam had said I couldn't be. Fertile, loved, protected. He couldn't attack Aiden financially or legally, so he attacked the only way he had left, through crass, public humiliation. One evening, as Aiden was helping me waddle from the car after a particularly long obstetrician appointment, Liam's Porsche pulled up. He wasn't alone. Sasha, the Pilates instructor, was with him, her baby bump now prominently, proudly on display. She looked uncomfortable, her eyes downcast. Liam got out, not even pretending to have a reason to be there. He leaned against his car, a picture of casual cruelty. Well, look at you, Michelle, blooming, or should I say, ballooning. His eyes raked over my rounded form with disdain. Twins, I hear, trying to make up for lost time with quantity. Since quality was never your strong suit, Aiden's hand on my arm tightened, but he remained still, a statue of controlled fury. Liam's gaze shifted to him, and the mysterious Mr. McCoy, still playing the humble handyman. I see. Must be exhausting, keeping up the charade for her. He laughed. Tell me, what's the plan? Veterans' disability and her alimony running out soon? Gonna raise those kids in that quaint little box? He put a possessive arm around Sasha, who flinched. At least my child will know its father is a success, a provider, not some anonymous neighbor. That was it. The last straw. I felt Aiden's restraint, a physical thing like a coiled spring. Snap. He took one step forward. Just one. But the energy around him shifted completely. The quiet, unassuming neighbor vanished. In his place stood someone else, entirely a man of absolute, terrifying authority. His posture straightened, his shoulders went back, and his eyes, usually so warm when they looked at me, turned to chips of glacial ice. The air grew cold. Liam, Aiden said, and his voice was different too. Lower, quieter, but it carried with the cutting precision of a scalpel. It wasn't a shout, it was a statement of fact that demanded absolute silence. You've had your fun. You've postured and preened and paraded your poor, interchangeable girlfriends. You've harassed my wife. You've tried to weaponize petty bureaucracy. You are a gnat buzzing around a lion. And your time is up. Liam scoffed, trying to reclaim his bravado. Oh, is that right? And what are you going to do? Handyman? Fix my attitude with a wrench? Aiden didn't smile. He reached into the inner pocket of his jacket and pulled out a slim, black leather folder. He didn't open it. He just held it up. I'm not a handyman. Liam, I'm the CEO and majority shareholder of McCoy Strategic Solutions. You might have heard of us. We're the people the Pentagon calls when they can't afford to get something wrong. We're the people companies like yours hire to find their leaks before they sink the ship. He took a step closer. Liam, unconsciously, took a step back, hitting the side of his Porsche, while you were busy stealing from your own company. Aiden continued, his voice lethally calm. I was building an empire. While you were mocking my wife, I was learning everything about you. Every dirty secret, every cut corner, every lie. You're bluffing. Liam spat, but the color had drained from his face. Am I? Aiden finally opened the folder. He didn't hand it to Liam. He simply displayed the first page. From where I stood, I could see columns of numbers, bank routing codes, and the stark header, SEC preliminary findings, TechVantage Capital misappropriation. You've embezzled $2.8 million from your own Series B or D fund over the last 22 months. Aiden recited, as if reading a grocery list. You funneled it through a shell company in the Caymans called Horizon Ventures. You used it to fund your lifestyle, the cars, the watches, the gifts for your various companions. He glanced at Sasha, who looked like she wanted to vanish into the pavement. The SEC has been building a case since last month. They've been waiting for one more piece of evidence. I just handed it to them this morning. Liam's bravado shattered. His face went from white to a sickly gray. That's proprietary. You can't have that. It's theft. It's due diligence. Aiden corrected him softly. And it's justice. He flipped to the next page. And then there's the matter of your impending progeny. He looked directly at Sasha, his gaze not unkind, but pitiless. Ms. Pellegrini, you might want to get a paternity test. The one I had discreetly run, courtesy of a DNA sample from Liam's discarded toothbrush and a prenatal screening you had at First Hill Diagnostics, came back with a 0% probability of paternity. The father, according to the sibling match, is likely one Marcus Thorne, a bartender at the Canonicus Club. Liam's membership there, by the way, was paid for with embezzled funds. The world stopped. Sasha made a small, choked sound, her hands flying to her mouth. Liam stared at Aiden, then at Sasha, his eyes wide with a mixture of horror and dawning, catastrophic understanding. You had no right. Liam stammered, his voice a broken thing. I had every right, Aiden said, his voice dropping to a deadly whisper. You threatened my wife. You tried to poison her peace. You are a thief, a liar, and a fraud. And as of 1 hour ago, your assets are frozen. Your board has been notified, and the U.S. Attorney's Office has a very thick file with your name on it. He closed the folder with a soft, final snap. The gnat has been swatted. Liam, now get off my property. And if you so much as look in my wife's direction again, I will not be so circumspect in my response. He turned his back, a dismissal so complete and contemptuous it was more powerful than any blow. He came to me, his expression shifting instantly from icy wrath to deep concern. "Are you all right?" he murmured, his hand going to my cheek. "I'm sorry you had to see that." I was trembling, but not from fear, from a seismic, awestruck shock. I had just witnessed a man be systematically dismantled, not with fists, but with facts. The quiet, powerful force I'd married had finally stepped out of the shadows, and it was a breathtaking, terrifying sight. I looked past Aiden at Liam. He was slumped against his car, the letter from the HOA and the paternity revelation fluttering from his limp hands. He looked gutted, hollowed out. The polished, powerful tech exec was gone, replaced by a man staring into the abyss of his own making. "I'm fine," I whispered to Aiden, leaning into his touch. "Let's go inside." As Aiden guided me gently up the walkway, I heard Liam's voice, broken and desperate, call out, "Michelle, please, you can't, you have to talk to him. Make him see reason." I didn't turn around. I kept walking, my hand in my husband's, towards the warmth and safety of the home he had made an impenetrable fortress. The door closed behind us, shutting out the crumbling world of Liam Anderson. Inside, Aiden helped me to the couch, kneeling before me. "I wanted to wait," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "until after the babies were born. I didn't want the stress for you. But no one insults my wife. No one threatens my family." I looked at him, this complex, powerful, fiercely loyal man who had hidden a volcano of capability behind a facade of quiet simplicity. He had done it for me, to protect me, to avenge me. I placed my hands on his cheeks, feeling the tension there. "I love you," I said, the words simple and utterly inadequate for the storm of feelings inside me. "And I'm not afraid of him anymore." He leaned his forehead against mine, closing his eyes. "Good," he breathed, "because his fight is over. Ours is just beginning." He placed a gentle hand on my rounded belly, where Grace and Samuel slumbered, oblivious to the earthquake their father had just unleashed. And it's the only one that matters. The fallout was immediate and brutal. The night after Aiden's demolition of Liam on the sidewalk, our doorbell rang at 2:17 a.m. The security panel screen showed a distorted, desperate face pressed against the camera. Liam, he was disheveled, swaying, his knuckles white as he hammered on the door. "Michelle, please." "Aiden, you have to talk to me." Aiden was already awake, watching the monitor from bed. He didn't move. "He's drunk," I whispered, my heart pounding. "He's panicking." Aiden's voice was cold. "The wolves are at the door." His door. He tapped his phone. On the monitor, two large, quiet men in dark clothes appeared from a parked SUV. They were Aiden's, I realized, part of the invisible security that had materialized around us. They took Liam firmly by the arms. "Let me go. I need to talk to her." "Michelle." Their voices were a low murmur. "Mr. Anderson, you're on private property. You need to leave. He's ruining me. He can't do this. I'll give back everything. Just don't ruin me." The audio pickup caught his ragged sob. The men guided him, not ungently, back to his car. One of them took his keys. "An Uber is coming. Your car will be here in the morning. Do not return." Silence descended again. Aiden put his arm around me. "It's over." But it wasn't. Not for me. The shock of Aiden's revelation was a delayed tremor, shaking my foundations. The next morning, over tea at the kitchen island, I faced him. "You lied to me." The words hung in the sunny, quiet kitchen. He put his mug down slowly. "By omission. Yes. For months. You let me think you were a struggling consultant. You watched me clip coupons. Aiden, you watched me panic over an $800 car repair. Would you have let me help you if you knew?" His gaze was direct, pained. "Would you have taken my hand? Or would you have seen another rich man trying to control your narrative? I needed you to see me. Not the CEO, not the bank account. The man who fixes leaks and loves your dog. That is the real me." He insisted, his voice rising a fraction. "The CEO is just a suit I wear to work. The heart underneath is the same. And it's yours. Everything else, the money. The company did it's just tools. Tools I used to protect you. To give you the life you should have always had. I wanted to be angry. I was angry. But the memory of Liam's face, the sheer magnitude of what Aiden had done to shield me, warred with the betrayal. You should have told me. You're right. I should have. I was scared. Of what? That you'd look at me the way you're looking at me right now. Like I'm a stranger. Like our life here is a fiction. He reached across the island, his hand hovering over mine. It's not fiction. Michelle, this is the only thing that's ever been real to me since Sarah died. The fight went out of me. He was right. The wealth. The power.it was astonishing. But it wasn't the core of him. The core was the man who made coffee every morning, who talked to my belly, who had built a fortress of quiet strength around me. I slipped my hand into his. No more secrets. No more secrets. He vowed, squeezing my fingers. The legal machinery Aiden had set in motion ground forward with terrifying efficiency. His lawyer, a razor-sharp former federal prosecutor named Diana Ross, became a regular, if intimidating, presence in our home. Liam's personal assets are frozen, Diana reported one afternoon, her tablet glowing with data. The SEC has formally charged him with wire fraud and embezzlement. TechVantage's board voted unanimously to remove him this morning. They're cooperating fully with the investigation to limit their own liability. And the civil suit? Aiden asked, his hand resting on my shoulder. Filed yesterday. We're suing for the full value of the marital assets you were denied under the prenup, plus punitive damages for intentional infliction of emotional distress and harassment. We're also seeking a permanent protective order, extending 200 yards. She looked at me. He will not be able to come near you, your children, or your home ever again. It was overwhelming. Vindication served on a silver platter by a legal avenger. The neighborhood, sensing the seismic shift in power, underwent a rapid realignment. Carol Gable appeared with a congratulations on the twins, card and a casserole. Others offered shy smiles. No one mentioned Liam. My pregnancy progressed, a beacon of joy in the storm. Then, at 34 weeks, the beacon flickered, a crushing headache, spots before my eyes, a sudden, alarming swelling in my hands and feet. Preeclampsia, Dr. Sterling said, her calm demeanor tighter than usual. Your blood pressure is too high. We need to admit you. Now, the next hours were a blur of hospital lights, IVs, and the worried crease between Aiden's eyes. My condition worsened. We need to deliver. Dr. Sterling told us in the sterile quiet of the hospital room. Tonight, for your safety and the baby's. Fear, cold and sharp, pierced through the medication haze. I looked at Aiden. His face was pale, but his voice was steady as he held my hand. Whatever you need to do, just keep her safe. In the pre-op room, as they prepped me for an emergency C-section, a wave of pure terror washed over me. The memories of past failures, the sterile smell, the overwhelming sense of my body betraying me again, it coalesced into a silent scream. Aiden, in scrubs and a cap, leaned over the gurney, his face filling my vision. Look at me. Michelle, just at me. Aiden, if something happens, nothing will happen. His voice was absolute, a rock in the churning sea. I've lost one love to fate. I won't lose another to anything. You hear me? You are the strongest person I know. You're going to meet our children. I'll be right here. They wheeled me away. The world narrowed to bright lights, masked faces, and the pressure of Aiden's hand in mine. Then, a cry, thin, angry, beautiful, another, slightly different. Two distinct voices announcing their arrival. Grace and McCoy. A nurse announced, placing a tiny, swaddled bundle near my cheek. Samuel James McCoy, said another. Tears blurred everything. I looked at Aiden. He was crying, too. Silent tears cutting tracks through the sterile mask. He kissed my forehead, his lips trembling. They're perfect. You were perfect. I spent 3 days in the ICU, stabilized, while Grace and Samuel thrived in the NICU. Small but fierce. Aiden never left. He slept in a chair, coordinated with the army of specialists, and acted as gatekeeper to the world. On the third day, propped up in bed, I saw a news clip on the muted TV in the corner. It was the local business report. A photo of Liam, looking haunted and worn, flashed on the screen. The cheer read, "Former TechVantage exec indicted. Assets seized." Aiden followed my gaze. "He's finished," he said softly. Professionally, financially, socially, I felt no triumph, only a distant, hollow pity. "I hope he gets the help he needs," I said quietly, turning back to the photo of our twins on my phone. "But my chapter with him is closed." Aiden took my hand, bringing it to his lips. "Ours," he said, his eyes on our children in the photo, "is just beginning." Liam's collapse was swift and total. The news coverage was brutal. Seattle tech wunderkind, charged with multi-million-dollar fraud. His picture, once in the business section for funding rounds, was now on the front page for perp walks. Aiden's lawyer, Diana, laid out the terms in our living room, now dotted with baby swings and burp cloths. The feds have him on the financial crimes. He's looking at 8 to 10 years minimum. We can make our civil suit disappear, reducing his legal burden, in exchange for a full, public confession and a return of triple the assets he stole from you. Michelle, it's a mercy he doesn't deserve. A confession? I asked, bouncing a fussy grace. A written, videotaped statement admitting to the embezzlement, the harassment, the intentional destruction of your post-marital financial security. It goes to the court and the media. It's a permanent, searchable stain, but it gives him a chance at a slightly shorter sentence. Aiden looked at me. Your call. It's your justice. I thought of the fear, the coupons, the shattered pot. I looked at my daughter's perfect face. Do it. Let him confess. Let everyone know who he really is. The video was released. Liam, pale and shrunken in a cheap suit, recited the damning words, his voice monotone. He named me, apologized for my cruel and illegal actions. It was everywhere. 2 days later, my phone rang, an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. Michelle? It's Evelyn, Liam's mother. Her voice was thin, old. My breath caught. Evelyn, we saw the video. We read everything. We didn't know. About the money. About how he treated you. We're so ashamed. She began to cry. He was always so driven, so intense. We thought it was ambition. We were blind. I felt a pang of unexpected sympathy. They had been distant, polite in-laws, dazzled by their son's success. It's not your fault, Evelyn. It feels like it is. We're so sorry for everything. We hope you're happy now. With your new family. I am, I said, and meant it. I hope Liam gets the help he needs. But my chapter with him is closed. We said awkward goodbyes. I hung up, feeling a weight lift. The last tether to that old life was severed. My own rebirth began in earnest. The twins were 3 months old, a whirlwind of needs and joy. I was exhausted but fiercely alive. Aiden hired a wonderful night nurse, but I insisted on being the primary caregiver during the day. It was my choice, my domain, but I needed more. I had the real estate license, the project management certification. They were tools gathering dust. One night, over a late dinner after finally getting the twins down, I told Aiden, I want to work, not for your company, for myself. I want to use my skills. He didn't hesitate. Tell me what you need. I don't need money. I need a project, a purpose. He thought for a moment. You rebuilt this house into a home while pregnant, under siege. You're managing the most complex project of all right now. He nodded towards the nursery monitor. What about helping others do the same? Women starting over. The idea ignited. I called it Haven Projects, a small, boutique firm to help women transitioning after divorce or loss that finding and furnishing homes, navigating finances, rebuilding lives. I used my own settlement money from Liam, the returned triple assets, as seed funding. It was poetic justice as capital. Aiden helped. but from the shadows. He'd mentioned my new firm to a contact who was a divorced philanthropist looking to fund women's initiatives. A week later, I had my first major client and a grant. My phone buzzed. A letter from the state penitentiary. Liam's name in the return address. I didn't open it. I took a picture and texted it to Diana. Handle this, please. Then I opened my laptop to review fabric swatches for a client's new apartment. Liam's sentencing hearing was a formality. I didn't attend. Diana called with the result. 7 years, minimum security, fines that would leave him destitute upon release. That evening, we had a small gathering for the twins' 100th day. Just a few true friends. Dr. Sterling, Anya the nutritionist, Diana. No fanfare. As we sat surrounded by baby toys and half-eaten cake, Aiden stood, tapping his glass lightly. He wasn't a speechmaker. His words were simple, direct, and they silenced the room. For a long time, I measured success in threats neutralized, systems secured. Then I met Michelle. He looked at me, his eyes soft. She taught me that real success isn't about tearing things down. It's about building something up. From the broken pieces, she's the strongest architect I know. He lifted his glass. To Michelle, and to the future we're building. One day, one project, one tiny, perfect smile at a time. Tears welled in my eyes. It wasn't just a toast. It was a testament. The quiet operator had built me a kingdom, not of walls, but of possibilities, and I was finally ready to rule it. 18 months later, the gala for the Seattle Urban Housing Alliance was in full swing at the Museum of History Industry. All glittering glass and Puget Sound views. I stood at the podium, the spotlight warm on my skin. My simple emerald green sheath dress felt like armor. And so, the Grace Place model proves that transitional housing doesn't have to feel transitional. I said into the microphone, my voice clear in the hushed room. The screen behind me showed before and after photos of the first building I'd spearheaded that a drab queen and row house transformed into a bright, safe haven for 4 families leaving shelters. It's about restoring dignity. One well-designed, secure front door at a time. The applause was genuine, thunderous. I caught Aiden's eye from his table near the back. He wasn't clapping loudly. He just gave me a slow, deep nod, his pride a tangible force across the room. My husband, the ghost in the machine, had come out of the shadows to sit in a banquet chair and watch me shine. After the speech, a flood of people surrounded me. A city councilwoman pressed a card into my hand. Your data on recidivism rates is compelling. Michelle, we need to talk about the Ballard Project. A network news producer asked for an interview. I smiled, deferred to my now full-time assistant, a sharp young woman named Chloe, whom I'd hired from one of the Haven Project's job training programs. I finally made my way to Aiden. He stood, pulling out my chair. You were magnificent, he murmured, his lips brushing my temple. I was petrified. I whispered back, letting the adrenaline shake, show only to him. You own the room, as I knew you would. He glanced at the departing councilwoman. She's tough. You'll handle her. We'll handle her. I corrected, squeezing his hand. Our partnership was the bedrock of everything. He'd casually connected me with a structural engineer who made Grace Place's innovative shared space design possible. I'd happened to meet the grant writer at a party he'd suggested we attend. He was the silent wind in my sails, and he never, ever tried to steer the boat. Later, in the car heading home to our sleeping twins, he was quiet for a moment. I saw Liam today. The name was a jolt of cold in the warm car. What? Not in person. A report. He's out. Early release for good behavior. Served just over 4 years. A strange calm settled over me. The fear was gone. Where is he? Tacoma. Working under the table construction. Living in a weekly motel. He's a ghost. Aiden looked at me. It's over. Michelle. Truly over. I looked out at the sparkling city. The man who had tried to break me was living in a motel room. I had just received a standing ovation in a museum. Aiden's hand found mine. Let him go, he said softly. I already had. Life became a joyful, chaotic balancing act. Grace, all fierce curls and determined scowls, was a mini general. Samuel, thoughtful and observant, was his father's son. Our surprise, baby Hope, arrived when the twins were two, that a joyful accident who completed our noisy, love-filled home. Haven projects took off. We won awards. I was asked to consult on a federal program for military family housing. The email from the White House Office of Public Engagement was a surreal, shining moment. I'd be one of several advisors, but the title was real. Michelle McCoy, Special Advisor on Transitional Housing Community Design. I showed Aiden the email on my laptop. He read it, then pulled me into a fierce hug. I have never been more proud of anyone in my life, he said, his voice rough. You're not upset? It'll mean travel to DC. Time away. Upset? He laughed. A real, free sound. Michelle, watching you build this, watching you use your brilliant mind and your huge heart, it's the best investment I've ever made. The only one that matters. The night before my first trip to Washington, we were in the kitchen. I was packing a diaper bag. Hope was coming with me, a nanny in tow. Aiden was cleaning up after dinner. Do you ever think about it? I asked, folding a tiny sweater. What if we'd met earlier? Before Liam? Before Sarah? He stilled, the dishcloth in his hand. He turned, leaning against the sink. No, he said, with finality. I wasn't ready then. You weren't ready. The broken roads led us right here. To this kitchen. To them. He nodded towards the monitor, showing 3 sleeping children. I wouldn't reroute a single step. That was the heart of it. Our love wasn't a fairy tale beginning. It was a midlife masterpiece, built with the sturdy, weathered materials of loss, resilience, and hard-won trust. A few weeks later, a business magazine profile of Aiden hit newsstands. The reporter had somehow pierced his legendary privacy. The headline read, "The billionaire in the background. McCoy Strategics, reclusive founder on threat assessment and second chances." There was a photo of him, looking characteristically intense. Near the end, the reporter asked, with a corporate valuation now estimated in the tens of billions, "What do you consider your proudest investment?" Aiden's quoted answer was simple. "My wife's design firm. 300% return on investment, measured purely in human happiness." I read it at my office desk, tears blurring the print. He hadn't told me he'd said it. He'd just shown me, every single day, that he meant it. The final piece of the past fell away a month after that. I was in a studio, filming a segment for a local morning show about Haven projects. During a commercial break, a production assistant nervously approached. "Ms. McCoy, there's a man outside. He says he knows you. He's asking for 5 minutes. He looks rough." A cold certainty settled in my gut. "What's his name?" he said. "Liam." I felt a surge of not fear, but profound annoyance. I glanced at the studio door. My security detail that a discreet pair of Aiden's people, stood just outside. I was safe. More than safe. I was in charge. "Tell him I'm not available," I said, my voice calm. "And if he doesn't leave the premises immediately, security will escort him. And then the police." The assistant scurried off. I took a deep breath, smoothed my jacket, and turned back to the host with a bright, professional smile. "Sorry about that. Shall we continue?" Later, my head of security, a stoic man named Marcus, confirmed it. It was him. He left when we approached. "He won't be back." I nodded. I knew he wouldn't. The man who had once held all the power was now just a sad ghost from a past life. And I was too busy building the future to be haunted. The gnat had been swatted, and I hadn't even needed to raise my own hand. 5 years later, Mommy, Sam took my geodesic block prototype. I looked up from reviewing blueprints on my tablet to see Grace, now a fiercely intelligent 5-year-old with a wild mane of auburn curls, standing hands on hips. Behind her, Samuel, calm and methodical, was assembling the blocks into a surprisingly stable structure. "It's not a prototype. Grace, It's a load-bearing arch. Your design lacked foundational integrity. I hid a smile. Sam, give your sister back 2 of the blocks. Grace, articulate why you need them. Use your words, not your volume. Aiden's voice came from the doorway of our home office. Now a real, sun-drenched space in the light-filled addition we built. The McConnell account is settled. Their security audit passed with a 99.7% rating. I'm officially semi-retired as of 5 minutes ago. He leaned against the frame, watching the scene with that quiet contentment that had become his default state. Hope, our 3-year-old whirlwind, barreled past his legs, clutching a stuffed dog. Daddy, Ranger is hungry. The real Ranger, now a gray-muzzled elder statesman, lifted his head from his bed, thumped his tail once, and went back to sleep. This was our life, a beautiful, noisy, purposeful chaos. My firm, McCoy Anderson Designs, I'd kept my name professionally, a nod to the journey, had 12 full-time employees and a 2-year waiting list. We specialized in transitional and trauma-informed design, a phrase I'd coined that was now used in architectural journals. The White House project had led to a nationwide initiative, and I had just returned from speaking at a conference at Harvard. I was pouring myself a coffee when my assistant's name flashed on my phone. Michelle, I have the final numbers for the Grace Place expansion in Ballard. The city council approved the full funding. A warmth spread through me, different from the coffee's heat. That's the third one. Chloe, forward me the docs. Aiden came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist, resting his chin on my shoulder. Another one, another one. 20 more families get a real start. I turned in his arms, semi-retired. What does that even mean for you? It means I'm the chief logistics officer for McCoy Anderson Family Operations, he said, kissing my forehead, and I get to say no to any contract that would take me away from bedtime stories. I've delegated the world-saving to very capable, younger people. Our life was a world away from Queen, and we'd moved to a larger, still unpretentious home on Bainbridge Island for the schools and the space. But the old neighborhood wasn't forgotten. Later that week, we took the ferry and drove to Queen, and the old street, the one Aiden had secretly bought, was now a beautiful, small park, Grace Place Park. The row houses had been converted into affordable rental units for teachers and nurses, with a communal garden and a playground. We were there for the dedication of a new play structure, funded by our foundation. As the kids ran toward the slides, an older woman approached, holding the leash of a prancing Pomeranian. Carol Gable. She looked older, softer. Michelle. Aiden. My goodness, look at your beautiful family. Her gaze swept over the park, the laughing children, the vibrant flower beds where Liam's obnoxious hedge had been. What you've done here, it's a miracle. We didn't know. About Liam. We were taken in. It was a long time ago. Carol, I said, meaning it. He's out. You know, lives in Spokane. I heard. Works in a hardware store. She said it like she was sharing the most delicious gossip, but it had lost its power to wound. I'm glad he's found some peace, I said, and to my surprise, I mostly meant that, too. He was a footnote, a cautionary tale from another life. Carol nodded, flustered, and moved on to coo over hope. Aiden's hand found mine. No anger left? I looked at our children, at the green space born from betrayal, at the man beside me. Anger is a heavy thing to carry. I'd rather carry hope. I squeezed his hand, literally. Hope, don't eat the wood chips. That evening, after tucking in 3 exhausted, park-happy children, Aiden and I sat on our deck overlooking the dark, shimmering sound. The lights of Seattle glittered in the distance. Do you ever think about what if we'd met earlier? I asked, the same question from years ago, but now from a place of settled peace, not curiosity. He didn't look away from the view, every now and then, and I always come to the same conclusion. No, I wasn't ready. You weren't ready. The broken roads led us right here. perfectly. He turned to me, his face illuminated by the moonlight. The best strategy one ever devised was loving you, not protecting you or avenging you, just loving you, letting you shine. Everything else was just support logistics. I laughed, a quiet, happy sound in the night, the highest praise from a master logistician. I leaned my head on his shoulder. He called you a beggar. You know, that first day, when you helped me with the planter, I felt his chest rise and fall with a silent chuckle. The man they called a beggar gave you a kingdom, not of money, I said, completing our old private thought. No, he agreed, his voice a soft rumble. A kingdom of respect, of partnership, of a love that grows with every passing season, every skin knee, every funded housing project. He kissed my hair, and the so-called prince, he turned out to be the real pauper, a pauper of character. Life's irony is its fairest justice. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the fairy lights glide across the water. The past was a closed book, its painful lessons learned, its debts settled. The present was a vibrant, messy, glorious gift. And the future? It was ours to build, together, one strong foundation at a time. The cracked pot had not just been repaired, it had been transformed into a vessel that could now hold an ocean of joy and pour it out to nourish the world around it. The journey was the destination, and it was more than enough.